Microsoft provided a digital copy of Forza Motorsport 7 for the purposes of this review. The game was reviewed on the original base model Xbox One in 1080p at 60 frames a second, and we only played using the default Xbox One controller. It should also be noted that we had a very limited time with the full game. As such, this review will be brief with a possible in-depth review coming later. Finally, since we had the game before its official launch, we won't be covering multiplayer as there weren't very many players online since we had the game before its official release, so we wouldn't be able to represent what most players will experience once the game does launch. Like every Forza Motorsport game that's come before it, Forza 7 aims to be the biggest and best Forza Motorsport game since the series started. Where rain was one of the major new features and selling points for Forza 6, Forza 7's headlines all revolve around being able to play the game at 4K resolution at 60 frames a second with HDR color space and having 700 plus cars available. If you've been keeping up with this channel over the last few weeks, you've probably seen at least a few clips of Forza 7 running at 4K. If you're set up for it, you are definitely in for a treat. The cars look incredible in 4K, and then increased resolution combined with high quality textures turns Forza Vista mode into car porn the likes of which you've never seen before. The racetracks look equally beautiful thanks to Turn 10 employing the same HDR sky technique used by Playground Games when they worked on Horizon 3. When you see the sky in Forza 7, it's real sky with real cloud patterns, which is only emphasized by the newly added dynamic weather system. The downside is that not all tracks have night or rain racing available, and none of the tracks have adjustable time of day. For example, the Long Beach Grand Prix track can only be raced during the day, but whenever I'd run the track, the time cycle would be in the dawn hours. I couldn't change it to noon or afternoon. It was frustrating, but with visuals that good, it's still hard to argue with the decision. Though, as I mentioned earlier, to take full advantage of Forza 7's visual potential, someone needs a 4K HDR capable monitor or TV and a really powerful gaming PC, or the new Xbox One X console, which is supposed to be released in November, about a month after Forza 7 is available to the masses. So then the question becomes, when you get rid of the 4K bells and the HDR whistles, is this still a good Forza game? I mean, let's face it, most people who play Forza 7 will be playing on a regular old Xbox One or Xbox One S on a good old-fashioned 1080p TV or monitor. Would those players still have their expectations met? To their credit, Turn 10 Studios didn't just rely on improved visuals. There are several new elements to gameplay in Forza 7, and there have been some improvements on features that have carried over from Forza 6 and even Forza Horizon 3. Though before we get into any of that, let me quickly discuss the gameplay and physics. As I stated in the disclaimer, I only play the game with a controller and not a wheel. However, as usual, Turn 10 Studios nailed controller play with Forza 7. The haptic feedback and the triggers are perfectly calibrated to let me know when I'm driving on the edge of adhesion. The physics engine also gives me just enough feedback to know when I'm going to make or miss a turn. The steering response never felt laggy, and the specific cars I drove moved in the way that I would expect them to move. That's one of the reasons why driving the new racing trucks is so fun, as it responded in every way a big massive semi-truck would likely respond when hunting apexes. At the same time, when driving a car like the 98 Porsche 911 GT1, I can tell when its aerodynamic grip was keeping me out of trouble. I can only imagine that playing Forza 7 with a proper wheel setup would feel really good. Moving on to the gameplay features, one of the biggest changes is the once again overhauled career mode. Turn 10 got rid of the Stories of Motorsport found in Forza 6, and instead made the career mode a much more linear experience of what they call the Forza Drivers' Cup. The Forza Drivers' Cup is made up of several championships which progressively get more challenging and diverse until eventually the player reaches the namesake Forza Drivers' Cup, which is top tier racing. Each championship has several series within it and feature a few showcase events as well, which are unlocked as players progress through the racing series. I'm personally a big fan of this setup as I prefer a clear start and a clear finish to a championship mode. While I can understand the appeal of a more open style career, I find earning my way up the ladder more satisfying. If someone feels the need to jump into a race with the fastest cars right away, they can always do the rent-a-car feature in the free play mode and race any car on any track they want at any time. While I've barely just gotten started in Forza Drivers Cup, I'm really looking forward to completing it. One thing we should definitely talk about when it comes to Forza 7 is the cars. As I mentioned before, there are over 700 cars in the game at launch, with more coming via DLC. It's literally the biggest car roster of any previous Forza game, period. As such, some changes were made to accent the experience of collecting all of that metal. The manufacturer affinity feature is gone. Instead, more emphasis is placed on collecting cars. Players will have a collector status that goes up based on the type of cars they have in their garage. All of the cars in Forza 7 fall within one of 5 collector tiers: common, uncommon, rare, super rare, and legendary. Additionally, each car adds a specific amount of collector points to your status. The more rare the car, the more points it'll add to your status. To see what cars are in each tier, there's a specific menu for the car collection, though it's a bit messy due to its sheer size. And since we're talking about the UI here, I do have a nitpick. For some reason, when browsing cars in the shop, the price is not listed anywhere near the cars. Instead, it's in really small text at the upper right hand corner of the screen. I have no idea why they did that, but I really don't like it. Anyway, some cars can only be purchased once reaching a certain status. The catch is some cars are locked and cannot be bought in the traditional way. Certain cars can only be unlocked by completing the Forza Drivers Cup, completing showcase events, or from prize crates. There are a few other ways cars can be unlocked as well. One of them is the Forzathon, which is carried over from Forza Horizon 3. The other way is via a specialty dealer. The specialty dealer is different from the car shop, as the dealer only carries a handful of cars and only for a limited time. Also, cars sold by the specialty dealer tend to give more collector points than a car might normally give relative to its particular tier. These features can be great or frustrating depending on the kind of person you are. Personally, I really like the way it adds more weight to the cars that I own in the game. Before, all I cared about was earning enough money to buy the cars that I wanted. Now, I actually feel motivated to try and get every single car I can because they've made a game out of collecting them. When it comes to customizations, more features have been added to enhance the experience. For the first time ever in a Forza game, players can choose a female drivatar to represent them. Turn 10 kept things socially clean and simple here. There's only one male and only one female. No skin is visible, so the rest is left to the imagination, which I think works best in this situation. It doesn't stop there though. Forza 7 introduces driver gear, which is essentially colored and themed driving suits with matching helmets that players can equip to their drivatars. This system effectively works the same way as skins do in popular shooting games. There are a ton of cool colors and themed suits to choose from, but I wish Turn 10 would have found a way to let players make their own custom driver gear with the same depth as the custom vinyl and paint system. Can you imagine what experienced Forza painters would do with driver suits if they had the same tools at their disposal? It's a shame that they couldn't fit that into the game. Driver gear can be obtained one of two ways. It can be unlocked by winning races and progressing through the Forza Drivers Cup, or it can be unlocked via another new feature called prize crates. Prize crates are pretty much how they sound. They're virtual crates that contain a mix of in-game goodies including mod cards, driver gear, and even cars. Prize crates can be awarded to players for completing races in the Forza Cup and for reaching milestones. They can also be purchased with in-game currency. When I first came across the prize crates when I played the preview build of Forza, I was worried that the crates could be purchased with real money, aka microtransactions, and that the Forza community would be pretty put off by it. Thankfully, prize crates are only bought with the money that you earn in-game. Not one real-life cent needs to be spent. Not only that, but players can actually earn money, well, in-game money, via prize crates as well. When a player first opens a prize crate, they have the option of selling any of the items within it. This solves the annoying issue of having a ton of duplicate prize cars or mods, something that was a huge pain in Forza 6 and Forza Horizon 3. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here with my final thoughts. There are some things I didn't like about Forza 7, like the weird UI quirks and the inability to finely tune the time of day and weather. Also, I have to mention that while a few new exterior modifications have been added, including wide body kits from the likes of Rocket Bunny and Liberty Walk, the selection of aftermarket wheels still needs some work. There are some seriously dated offerings in the wheel lineup. Not like dated in the cool old school vintage way either. They have that, but there are also some wheels that are just out of style. Additionally, I really wish Microsoft would have pushed for VR on the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, the same way Sony has with the PlayStation. With Forza 7 being such a good looking game, I can't help but think of the lack of VR as a missed opportunity. Though even with those small gripes, Forza Motorsport 7 has firmly established itself as one of the best all-around racers on Xbox One right now. Forza Motorsport 7 gives players nearly everything they want from it, and there's still a lot more left in the tank. They made an incredibly beautiful looking racer, they've turned car collecting into an addictive quest, the Forza Drivers' Cup satisfies the motorsport itch with a clear and defined path featuring a wide variety of motorsport disciplines, and they did it all while maintaining all of the best things about the series, like driving dynamics and physics. There's more than enough to Forza Motorsport 7 to keep me interested for the next 2 years. If you're looking for an all-around racer that's easy to pick up and play while also having a lot to offer, Forza Motorsport 7 is a perfect fit.